In order to accommodate as many speakers as possible, I will be calling 4 names at a time and ask you to come to the center and be ready when the previous speaker has finished their remarks. After that speaker has ended his or her remarks, the next person should proceed directly to the podium and introduce yourself and begin your remarks. Please conclude your remarks at 2 minutes or before. At the conclusion of the 4th person's remarks, I will call another 4 people's names. Respect is a core belief in the San Juan District. We ask that you show respect for differing viewpoints by listening and not vocalizing during another speaker's time. Also, we would like to hear from as many speakers as possible, and applause takes up valuable time that other speakers could be utilizing. At the conclusion of 30 minutes, the board will stop and we will have a discussion if we want to extend time, but we would like as many speakers as possible to be heard. With that, our first 4 speakers are Rachel Raymond, Angela Luna, Shannon Brown, Jennifer Pierce.
Good evening. My name's Rachel Raymond, and I get to start the fun part of this meeting, I think. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board tonight. I have a daughter who is 6 years old, and she attends kindergarten in the San Juan School District. She had a bit of a breakdown a few weeks ago when she was playing with one of her best friends. She was crying uncontrollably because her friend wouldn't play 2 moms with her. This was a small moment built upon many small moments in her school, in her preschool, and in her daycare before. Small moments when another child will innocently declare that she can't have 2 moms. Sometimes the kids can be corrected. Sometimes they insist that my daughter is wrong about her own existence. The reality is that we are a 2-mom family. The kids that tell my daughter that she can't have 2 moms aren't trying to hurt her. They are speaking from a place of ignorance, of inexperience, of not having a history with LGBTQ examples. And these small moments of ignorance build up for children like my daughter. This curriculum that incorporates the FAIR Act has 9 examples that reference LGBTQ history and identity. This may not be enough to change my daughter's experiences, but it is one piece of validation. 9 important opportunities to support our family in my daughter's eyes, to show her that her story isn't the only one, that our community has a history. The opposition may say that this curriculum is too much, too soon, that their own family should decide when and how to define LGBTQ existence for their children. The reality is that by taking these discussions out of academia, you are putting it on the shoulders of my daughter, or queer students, or students of color. The FAIR Act is intended to change failed representation, and I am grateful for this effort. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to speak. My name is Angela Luna, and I teach 5th grade. This is my 24th year in education. I have been teaching the FAIR Act for approximately 10 years. In 2009, I wanted to read a book about a Californian who made contributions to our society, and my administrator at the time demanded that I have a meeting with her and her director, so I did. The director said I had to have a permission slip sent out to my students. When I provided the permission slip to my class of 4th graders, one boy raised his hand and said, "Why do we have to have a permission slip to learn about this man?" Excellent question. Fast forward to 2011, I became nationally board certified, and these are the standards: equity, fairness, diversity. I certified in literacy, early and middle childhood, which is the age range from 3 years old to 12. So the idea that children are too young to learn about diversity is debunked by the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. And I'll read to you some of that. Accomplished teachers help students to understand and apply the democratic principles of freedom, justice, and equity. And they help them to recognize discrimination, prejudice, and stereotypes when they appear in the classroom, in literature, and elsewhere. Teachers design and implement lessons that help students develop awareness of, sensitivity to, and respect for others. That language is in alignment with what I just heard Nicole describe with this adoption. I urge you to say yes for this adoption so I can better serve my students and they can see themselves in the curriculum. I've been teaching it for 10 years on my own. I would love board adopted materials so all of the teachers are on the same page.
Board members, Superintendent Kern, Ms. Cunningham, my name is Shannon Brown and I'm a parent to 2 7-year-old boys in the district. Let's be honest about why so many people are here. The social science adoption is about including all groups, but it appears there's only one that is causing concern. As a member of the LGBT community, I know coded discrimination when I hear it. So let me lend you my lens for the evening. You may hear, why can't we all just be Americans? Why do we need to label people? Why? Because the folks that say things like that are part of the dominant culture. They seem to defend things the way they are. Maybe they just don't notice that history already features white heterosexual males as heroic characters, while other groups have been mischaracterized or are invisible. You may hear, this should be a family decision to talk about sexuality. Wow, that shows how invisible heterosexual privilege is. Our society constantly sends messages about sexuality, yes, even to our kids. Books, movies, songs, cartoons predominantly display heterosexual relationships. Do concerned parents avoid prince and princess movies for fear of sexuality being taught? Would they be upset if they knew that George Washington was married to Martha? Would they complain if their kids learned about an average day in the life of a Pilgrim family? The answer is no. And the reason it's no is because they don't see any of these examples as teaching sexuality. That's how it works when you're part of the dominant culture. It's invisible to you. But if you were to include, let's say, a picture of a baby with 2 moms, that is crossing the line. Please know that these types of claims are a way to confuse the issue. Folks skew the narrative, so when marginalized groups are on the verge of being seen as equal, they paint themselves as the victims. Don't fall for the spin. Including all groups in our curriculum makes us stronger as a community. So yes, we need to call out our differences, and our students do need to see themselves in the curriculum. Yes to inclusion and yes to the adoption.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Jennifer Pierce. I teach 5th grade in the district. I was also raised in this district, and my children are students in this district. I chose to stand up tonight because I had one of my 5th grade students use the word faggot today. And it's out of ignorance. They don't know enough. They're not educated. We need these materials in our classroom. First, because our materials are currently super outdated. They were adopted when my son was in the district, and he's 21 years old now. I urge you to adopt the curriculum so all students can see themselves in the curriculum and what their families look like. Thank you.
Our next 4 speakers, Lori Gold, Joseph Connolly, Lacey Bauer, and Rachel Henry.
Good evening.
Before you start, they've gotten the clocks corrected. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lori Gold. I'm a teacher at Whitney School. I grew up in the 60s and 70s in Dallas. I knew from a very young age that I was different from others, but I didn't understand how or why. I was who I was. How I looked, dressed, acted, what I enjoyed doing, especially sports, made my life confusing as I didn't fit into the images I saw around me. As a result of looking and acting different, on the outside, I was questioned, harassed, and getting into both verbal and physical altercations. On the inside, feeling different led to being withdrawn, isolated, depressed, and eventually to a strong sense of self-hatred. By high school, I didn't want to be alive anymore. I wasn't suicidal, but I believed who I was wrong and bad because of what others told me about myself. I only knew how to be in the world around me as I was. However, I didn't feel like I belonged or that there was a place for me, even in my own life. There were images of people who were lesbian and gay, but they were painfully stereotypical, negative, or the whole issue was treated like it was a terrible secret that was not to be revealed. Without positive representation of who I was, I simultaneously felt invisible and like I stood out like a sore thumb. Today, I have the opportunity, honor, and privilege to work at a school that is very diverse. I get to learn something from my students every day. Growing up is very difficult, no matter who you are, but to grow up unheard, unseen, with negative stereotypes, not being portrayed at all, or without a positive role model is unacceptable in the diverse world we live in today. It is time for all of our voices to be heard, all of our faces to be seen, and our accomplishments to be acknowledged. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Connolly. Before I get started, I'd like to recognize your very articulate young student here who spoke on behalf of the committee that the superintendent was a part of. I graduated from high school in 1976. This is probably the first time I've been back since, but it's a joy to see such articulate young people speaking and know that they're going to be leading us in the future. So thank you. I'm here as a parent. I'm here as a parent of a transgender daughter, and I'm here as a board member of PFLAG and the Gender Health Center and other supportive groups. I invite you to join us at any of our meetings. If you're interested, we can tell you how to come to those. I'm happy to see that you're thinking of an inclusive curriculum, because I know from my experience that extends to an inclusive community. And I've seen young students in inclusive curriculums benefit from that. As one young man said, it makes me feel safe. And that would certainly address some of the stress factors that I saw your students present to you earlier this evening. It also helps make a topic that may be unfamiliar to people and their families, such as transgender children, more familiar. And of course, that makes it less threatening, which is good for all, but especially that young student in your classroom. It would have been invaluable for my daughter to have a curriculum like this when she came out at 9 years old to me. She would have had very positive role models, such as Sarah McBride, to motivate her and to motivate me. I can assure you that when my child came out, she didn't say to me, "Would you support my agenda, Dad?" As you may hear some of the people here in opposition suggest. I don't have an agenda except the safety of my child, the same as all the other parents that are here. That's not a reason to oppose a curriculum like this. I'm here to support all the children in your district and all the schools to attend an inclusive learning environment for their safety and for their learning, and you're here to help them learn. So please do that. I encourage, lastly, your committee to continue its work, because this is just the beginning. There's much more to do, and we would like to partner with you to do that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lacey Bauer, and I have 2 elementary-age kids in the district. I'm a member of the district's Community Advisory Committee for Special Education, and tonight I urge the board to adopt the proposed curriculum to comply with the FAIR Act. As a parent of 2 disabled children, I want a solution to the disproportionately high rates of bullying, suspension, and suicide among the historically underrepresented groups who are the focus of this legislation. These students vitally need to see themselves represented in the stories we tell about ourselves, our culture, and our history. Finding oneself in the pages of history is inspirational, aspirational, and hopeful. Representation saves our children's lives. Not only does seeing oneself in the pages of a history traditionally reserved for the powerful and privileged inure to the benefit of the marginalized student's sense of self, it powerfully challenges the ignorance of those who would dismiss those students' existence, worth, and contributions. This curriculum is an invitation, a seat at the table. As Whitman put it, the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. That powerful play, as studied in American public schools, has for too long focused on the contributions of white men. My Richmond, Virginia area public school taught me about the War of Northern Aggression that was not about slavery. Mary Bowser, a literate freed slave who spied on Jefferson Davis for the Union, was never even mentioned. Whitewashed history not only distorts the truth of what happened, its omission of nuance leaves students with the misapprehension that today's issues are impossibly complex compared with those faced by our ancestors. Students are deprived of the critical thinking exercise necessary to confront their innate biases and to prepare to tackle the critical issues facing us today. Including everyone benefits everyone. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for your time this evening. My name is Rachel Henry. I am the Outreach and Training Institute Director at the Sacramento LGBT Community Center, and I am here on behalf of the center and in support of the adoption of the LGBTQ+ inclusive textbooks in accordance with the Fair Education Act. I would like to share with you some profound data from the most recent GLSEN National School Climate Survey. They found that LGBTQ students in schools with LGBTQ inclusive curriculum report less severe victimization, are less likely to miss school due to feeling uncomfortable or unsafe because of their identity. They're more likely to have a higher GPA and are more likely to have higher academic aspirations for post-secondary education after graduation. They're also more likely to report that their classmates are more accepting and that their peers are twice as likely to intervene or speak up if they overhear a homophobic or negative remark about gender expression. What these statistics show is that providing relevant representation within school curriculum not only supports LGBTQ youth in seeing themselves as worthy and important in this world, but it also helps their peers see the LGBTQ+ community as worthy and important. There is a decrease of violence and an increase of bystander interventions on school campuses among students when everyone is learning collectively as a community about the amazing and beautiful contributions that a diverse group of historical leaders have contributed to. It is for these reasons and many more that the Sacramento LGBT Community Center urges you to decide in favor of this LGBTQ inclusive curriculum. Thank you.
Our next four speakers, Chelsea Erickson, Trish Nelson, Cece Nelson, Larry Gilmore.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I hope my comments represent all parents as a whole here tonight. I first attended the curriculum review night on January 27th and have been to every info night since in regards to SB 48, the Fair Education Act, and AB 329, the California Healthy Youth Act. I've reviewed materials, reached out at times to school district employees, researched these materials, and the laws pertaining to them. I've had some concerns, mostly though, about the whole leaning tone of all the materials. Throughout this process, nothing has shocked and disappointed me more than the lack of inclusion of the parents and not giving us a seat at the table and a voice. Yes, invitations were buried in floods of informational emails and calls, but there was no info to tell us specifically that there would be sensitive and controversial material involved. Not until the 11th hour, because a mother pushed for it, was that included. Then, as word has slowly gotten out and more parents attended meetings with concerns and questions, I watched at each meeting as parents were given less of a voice, with comments being cut out, questions refused to be answered unless first surviving an on-site vetting session. Even after seeing the response and concerns, no plans were made to hold additional meetings with more time to discuss. For those in favor of these adoptions, you too should be concerned and offended by this process and the lack of giving parents adequate ability to be included and informed. Because who is to say that in the future something you are concerned about and want more involvement and voice in because you are on the other side is handled this way? We as a community should have been given the opportunity to start long ago with clear information to come together, work together, listen to each other's concerns and hopes, and to find a solution together that would make us all feel heard, seen, and included. We are asking that you put this on hold. There is not a deadline on this. We can all work together to find options at each education level that is good for all of us. Thank you.
Good evening, school board members. I'd like to bring another perspective perhaps to this discussion. I have 2 children who face unique challenges within this world and in life. My sweet son was born with Down syndrome, and my beautiful daughter spent her first 2.5 years in the foster system until we were united by adoption. They are now 7 and 11, respectively. As an advocate, I often spend my efforts fighting for inclusion, access to opportunity, as well as equality in the treatment of all individuals across the board. I believe wholeheartedly in these things. So while I understand the needs exist for all groups of people to be represented in curriculum, the labeling of sexuality is not always age or developmentally appropriate. Inclusion, celebration of one's accomplishments does not require explicit sexuality labeling. We learn of key important figures and their contributions to our history in our educational journey, and later may come upon interesting facts about them. For instance, Sally Ride, one of the celebrated heroes in the textbook, is not celebrated for her sexuality, but rather her bravery and courage to embark on the space shuttle's novel excursion. Sexuality in general is a complex and very sensitive topic and must be delicately approached, particularly in the elementary grades. To assume a general knowledge by those students in younger grades is naive at best. While our teachers may have the best of intentions, their messages and information risk crossing that line of developmental appropriateness that sexuality content inevitably will. Furthermore, it isn't required by SB 48. I prefer to advocate with the phrase, "we are more alike than different," and I don't like my son being referred to as the boy with Down syndrome or have my daughter be identified as the adopted kid. Labels shift focus and attention to distract from their humanness and actually limit them. Please rethink this approach to
Thank you for listening today. My name is Cece Nelson. I'm in 6th grade. At my school, I'm learning about the world around us. We are unique people, kids included, and we have great things to do in life and to bring to our communities. I am interested in learning about the people in history and how they have made our world a better place. Adults talk a lot about personal labels and grouping people together. Kids don't really want to know about that stuff. We really just care about what people did as a person to help the world. Even at my age, when I hear about personal labels, it makes me uncomfortable. And in my opinion, labels should stay personal. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Larry Gilmore, and I have a 3rd grader at GRDC. I'm one of the approximately 2,500 tax-paying, concerned parents of San Juan Unified School District who this district has largely ignored. And we strongly oppose the way you have gone about adopting the state's history and social science curriculum for elementary-age students. We're the primary stakeholders in this district. You're the elected board members and public employees, and you represent us, not the political activists or parties around us. Remember that your professional code of conduct states that you must not misrepresent or distort the facts during public discussion, which our group believes that you have done time and again. For instance, Nicole has constantly used Education Code 60422 to coerce your position. However, this code refers to the IMFR funding mechanism, which has been repealed and replaced by the LCFF and LCAP for many years. Or in EC 35160.1, the legislature found and declared that, and I quote, "School districts have the flexibility to create their own unique solutions which can be liberally construed and affect this objective." Even SB 48 and the HSS framework law state, while mandatory in regards to this implementation, it falls to the teacher in the local school and district administration to determine how the content is covered and at what grade levels. So my question is, why didn't you ask the fundamental question and get public comment on should San Juan Unified School District adopt this curriculum, or should we come up with a unique and liberally construed solution? Did you consider this? Education Code Section 60210 maps out a process for using local educational data and teacher review to support non-SBE adopted material rather than bending to the political whims of outside forces. You had to know that this was a volatile issue, and yet adoption was a foregone conclusion to you from the beginning. You have even advertised a purchase date. This shows the way that you're out of touch with parents and your district, and this is a problem. We urge you to delay adoption until mutually agreed upon.
Lisa Rutan, Karen Mark, Rebecca Ree, and Rick Wortman.
Imagine a world where every child has the skills, knowledge, supportive relationships, and opportunity to prevent violence and build safer communities. Now think about many youth who report feeling unsafe in their own schools due to their sexual orientation. Ask yourself, why is that? Could it be these youth are rejected by their own families and then harassed at school? Schools are supposed to be a safe place, and where all youth, whether African American, Mexican American, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or LGBT, are able to learn about heroes they can identify with and look up to in order to make a positive influence in the world. For example, Bayard Rustin, John Amici, Wanda Sykes, Langston Hughes, Harvey Milk, Anderson Cooper, Ellen DeGeneres, Andy Warhol. Learning about a hero that you can identify with allows for self-acceptance, self-love, respect, and open communication. Education is an opportunity to challenge our own preconceptions. Education need not be comfortable or heteronormative to be useful. No one is implying that a hero's identity should be the only part of the lesson, but context is necessary for intelligent, critical discussions. When children do not have heroes to look up to, there is increased risk of suicide, rejection, self-esteem, and a higher dropout rate. If we open our minds and hearts to help LGBT children be successful in not only their school years, their lives, and by opening the minds of those who do not understand the struggle of LGBT youth, maybe we can make not only the school environment more inclusive and accepting, but also allow for future generations to be inclusive for all. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Mark, and I'm here as the mother of 3 children who attend San Juan Unified Schools to express my support for the new curriculum that is inclusive of LGBT people in history. When my oldest son was in preschool and insisted on making 2 paper flowers in school on Mother's Day, one for each of his 2 mothers, instead of the 1 paper flower that all other children were making, his fellow classmates saw only the love of a child for his 2 parents. By the time that he reached 1st grade, my oldest explained to my partner and I on Mother's Day that we would have to share the 1 tea bag in the paper teacup that he had made in art class at school because the art teacher had insisted that each child take only 1 tea bag. I told him that we would happily share the tea bag, which we did, but that the art teacher had probably meant only 1 per mother rather than 1 per child, and that she may have forgotten that some children have 2 mothers. When my oldest reached 5th grade and I was chaperoning on a school field trip, I overheard one boy in his class call another boy a faggot. And in front of my son, me, multiple other children and adult chaperones, and the child's own father, who appeared to not even notice his son's language and said nothing. By the time my oldest reached 6th grade and had to share a poster of his family for his Spanish class, he turned one of his mothers into a dad for the poster. We cannot effectively teach our children to respect others or themselves without first teaching them about the diversity within our community and the value and beauty within that diversity. Having textbooks that reflect the San Juan community, which includes children and families from all over the world, children raised by LGBT parents, and children who themselves may grow up to become part of the LGBT community, helps to support children to feel as proud of themselves and their families and proud of the contributions that people in their community have made to history. Thank you.
Good evening. Tonight, many in opposition to the adoption of the new curriculum wear green with the LGBTQ community because contrary to what some claim, we are about unity and not division. We love every child and respect every family. We simply want solid education that honors all. We ask that in curriculum, academics are the focus and that all our values be respected. This can be done easily, fairly, and inclusively by leaving out the unnecessary mention of sexuality when highlighting notable historical figures to our 5 through 10-year-old children, including taking out mention of heterosexual relationships that may exist. Developmentally speaking, children are not ready for these topics, and it is the family's place to introduce such sensitive topics when appropriate for each child. Had you given us an opportunity to be involved in this decision-making process, we believe both those with more traditional views and the LGBTQ community could have found a comfortable medium. So we wear green to show that we don't want to silence another group, but that we families join as all parent rights are under attack. Parents are legally and morally parents are legally protected to direct the education and moral development of their children. Moreover, the Constitution and Education Code do not challenge the beliefs of students are under assault. The Supreme Court determined that government cannot compel individuals to express thoughts with which they disagree, violating the conscience of teachers and students. Authentic tolerance is the ability to respect opinions with which a person disagrees. Students who have different views of sexuality and gender than are promoted by the textbooks presented must have their beliefs tolerated in public schools as well. That is the law. These textbooks undermine true diversity by crushing conscientious objectors and by labeling are more divisive. Bullying happens when superior influence is used to intimidate or coerce others. In our free society, government districts or activists should never be allowed to abuse their power by bullying kids who have different beliefs informed by conscience or faith. Our children are surrounded by diversity in our family, in our neighborhood, at our sports, etc. And we teach them to protect it.
Good evening, Ms. Costa, members of the board. My name is Rick Wortman. I have 6 grandchildren enrolled in San Juan Unified Schools. I was raised in San Juan Unified, and my 2 children were each raised in San Juan Unified. And I rise in objection to the adoption of this recommended HSS curriculum. My objection is to the proposed and has nothing to do with bigotry, intolerance, or hate. Political activism, cultural warfare, and indoctrination are inappropriate for any age in primary or secondary education. Young children in PJ's, pre-operational cognitive development and intuitive thought substage, are seemingly sponges for soaking up new information from all around their environment, and they are just beginning to explore their sexuality. Introducing controversial, complex social sexual concepts, even by reference, is not age appropriate for K-6 children. It distracts from topical content, it evokes confusion, and it raises relational anxiety. Creating confusion for very young students erodes instead of promotes safety. Doing so without parent knowledge or consent is simply wrong. Promoting gender fluidity for young students creates unnecessary confusion, and gender-confused youth may, in fact, do things causing themselves physical harm. There is also no scientific evidence that promoting gender fluidity to young children helps develop their empathy or compassion. What happens when an educator introduces this type of material to children? How are educated adults that presumably care for children not seeing the problem here? I thank you for your attention and consideration, and I urge you to consider establishing parent notification for all sexually controversial classroom content and provide for opt-out. I also strongly urge deferral of this adoption and recommend curriculum and bring disaffected parents to the table and work collaboratively to develop compliant and appropriate classroom resources. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank the audience for being respectful. You have really done that as an audience. I am going to call 2 more names. Then the board will have a discussion about extension of time. So I don't want you to think that everything is over with after these 2 names. The next 2 speakers are Susan Schaefer and Kim Woodruff.
Good evening. My name is Susan Schaefer, and I'm the parent of a kindergartner who attends Marymount Elementary School. I'm here tonight to speak in support of incorporating the proposed curriculum in compliance with the FAIR Act. I support the proposed curriculum because I know the past causes the present, and so the future. I don't want my daughter to be taught a whitewashed version of her history, of our history. I want her to be exposed to and understand that we are a nation because of the prior acts and sacrifices of people from all genders, ethnicities, and cultures who sought out freedom, debated policies and laws, and who fought for our liberties. I want my daughter to see that people of all genders, abilities, religions, and sexual orientation have a place in our history and therefore deserve a place in our future. I don't know what the future holds for my daughter. I don't know who she will grow up to love, what profession she will choose, where she will live, or if she will have children of her own. But I do know that I want her to experience the richness of who we are as Americans, not just some Americans, but all Americans. I want her to learn about people who came before her and who did extraordinary things. I want her to see herself in these people, and I want her to feel inspired and free to become who she is meant to be, which means learning and studying about those who are like her and those who are not. It's with this wish for my daughter and fellow students, I urge you to incorporate the proposed curriculum. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hello, my name is Kim Woodruff. I worked in public education for 40 years before I retired. I'm the mother of a transgender girl. She's 23 years old. She's in college. She wants to be a counselor to help other people. I'm on the board of directors of PFLAG Sacramento. PFLAG is a national organization that supports the LGBTQ community, lobbies for equal rights, and educates the general public on diversity and inclusion. I strongly support the inclusion of factually accurate information about LGBTQ people and issues in the new curriculum recommended by your teachers. Why be ignorant of LGBTQ people and issues? There is nothing to be gained by ignoring the LGBT community or its contributions to our world. Thank you.
Fellow board members, we are at the 30-minute mark, and I ask for discussion from the board whether you want to extend public comment. Ms. Creasom?
May I move that? May I move? Can you hear me? I would like to move the item to continue public comment.
Part of your motion would be helpful if you let us know how much time you would like to extend by.
Good point. Let's say 30 more minutes of public comment, and then we revisit if there's more public comment.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Ms. Creasom, seconded by Ms. Viasquez. Is there any comment from any board member? Dr. McKibben?
I am in favor of the motion, but I hope that we can indeed expedite by those who come in the second 30 minutes, try to talk about things that are new to the board. I know most of us have been taking notes and so forth, or if when you come, you can talk about things that are new to us, that would be very helpful.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 And I know it's really hard not to applaud, but it does take up minutes that we would really like to have speakers have that time. So with that, our next four speakers are Wanda Hasadari, Emily, my eyes are starting to go, Kaylee Burgess, and Deidre Long.
Hi, good evening. My name is Wanda Hassasi, and I'm a Carmichael resident and a parent of two young children, one who is enrolled to start this fall in a San Juan Unified School, and another who will follow her in a few years. As a parent, I support the adoption of the new curriculum, I support the curriculum because my children and their peers will benefit from being taught a curriculum that includes the histories, knowledge, perspectives, and contributions of the diverse communities that make up our state. I support the adoption of the new curriculum because it is a critical step towards our schools becoming more inclusive of the diverse histories and voices of communities that have been historically excluded or silenced because of prejudice and bias. Every child deserves to see themselves and their families reflected in the curriculum. Every child deserves to learn about the histories and hear the voices of each other's communities. Inclusion and accurate representation of diverse racial groups, individuals with disabilities, and the LGBT community in our school curriculum matters. It matters for our children. It is not too much, and it is never too soon for children to learn about themselves and the communities around them through our school curriculum, and to learn the values of inclusion and diversity. I want my children and their peers to have these benefits from the new curriculum, and as a parent, I support its adoption. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Vaden. I am here tonight as the mom of a transgender student enrolled in the district. When my son told us last year emphatically that he was a boy and he wanted us to use male pronouns, it was not a shock. He had been telling us he was a boy since he was 2 years old. It was important to me to know that he was not the only kid who was transgender. We quickly found a group of local families in Sacramento like ours and a children's book written by a woman about her experience as a transgender child. This made all the difference. Seeing others like him changed his experience. This is the gift of history, to accurately depict the stories of those who came before us. Intentionally omitting groups of people lends itself to sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, and the like. There are more than 4 million LGBTQ school-age youth living in the U.S. 1 in 10 U.S. students identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual. 1 in 70 students identify as transgender. If you include LGBTQ parents and siblings, that's more than a third of a classroom that has significant ties to the LGBTQ community. LGBTQ students are at higher risk of verbal harassment, and physical assault at school. According to the 2018 National School Climate Survey, 70% of LGBTQ youth experienced verbal harassment and 41% experienced physical harassment or assault at school because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And they're not just getting it from their peers. 57% of LGBTQ students reported hearing homophobic remarks from their teachers, and 71% reported hearing negative remarks about their gender expression from teachers and staff. This is unacceptable. School is a place for all students. Information breeds understanding, which is the antidote to hate and intolerance. By adopting the proposed curriculum, children like mine see themselves in their textbooks, and their peers will see an accurate depiction of the entire nation's rich history. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kaylee, and I'm here because I think we should adopt new textbooks for the social study textbooks. I am in the 5th grade, and when my dad told me what was happening, I was like, that's not right. And here are my reasons why I think we should adopt new social study textbooks. 1, so that people can learn more about all communities, including the LGBTQ community. That way people don't feel left out. 2, if there's a kid who is in TK through 5th grade that likes someone of their own gender, they don't see people like themselves in textbooks. They will think there is something wrong with them. This is a problem because we want everyone to feel equal no matter what. Hope this will help you. Have a nice day.
And be equal.
Okay then.
first time being here. Hello, my name is Deirdre, and I am from Thomas Kelly Elementary School. I am so glad I could speak with you all. I am in support of including the LGBTQ community in our brand new textbooks. As you can see, because I'm wearing green. Whoa. So here are some reasons as to why this should happen. One, the textbooks are old, like really old, and I'm sure we can all piece together why that's bad. Two, school is all about including everyone, so everyone can learn. Third, if people don't feel included in school, they won't want to come, and they won't learn as much. Fourth, some parents are afraid of their children getting exposed to the LGBTQ community, but I think exposure could be a learning experience, because they can learn about other people. I hope I have reassured you all that adopting new textbooks is the right thing to do.
Our next four speakers, Jennifer Walker, Juanita Martinez, Rick Gall, and Jenica Williams.
Hi, good evening. I am Jennifer Walker, and I am a mom in this community. I have a daughter in TK and a son right behind her. My husband and I, we live here, and I was a social worker, a school social worker, for many years, so maybe I can bring a different perspective. I worked as a school social worker, and then I've worked in mental health. Contrary to the comments we heard earlier, I do not believe that you are out of touch with parents. I am informed, I am in touch, and I am in support of adopting this fair curriculum. I speak from experience, professional experience, when I say that it is not too young to introduce this to children. They are used to these labels. They understand these labels. They know these labels from their own community, from our culture, music, TV, things that they hear. I've read the curriculum, and there's absolutely nothing shocking in there. And it won't be shocking to our children, and I'm surprised it's shocking to these parents. Acknowledging historical figures where gay, lesbian, bisexual does nothing to speak to someone's morality. It is merely mentioning a fact, not opinion. And that's an important fact for people who live in that community. And having people who are in opposition to this are not coming from a place of respect. The ones who are offended, I don't think are out here trying to preach respect and understanding. I don't think they're out there for the well-being of the whole. I think personally they're pushing their own agenda. It does not confuse children to merely hear these labels existed. And again, I'm speaking from professional experience. I'm sorry that they feel that way, and I'm sorry they were offended, but merely acknowledging labels should not do that. I personally don't want to live in a district where the curriculum doesn't reflect the beautiful diversity I see in my own community.
Hi, my name is Juanita Martinez, and I stand here representing not only myself, but my husband, Adam Dondra, who couldn't be here today, and our two loving and caring daughters. I have never spoken up at a school board meeting, but felt compelled to be here today to show our support for the FAIR Act and the adoption by the board. And I want to applaud the hard work of this board and the staff and the many hours that were spent on going through textbooks and going through the information. The inclusion of all people is important for not only those parents and those persons who identify with the excluded communities, but for those people who are unfamiliar with certain communities. Hate and biases are based upon fear of the unknown. By including the contributions of all people in textbooks, we are taking one small step toward erasing that fear. We are taking one step closer to closing a gap, and hopefully we are taking one more step to having a community and a world where we can look at each other no matter what our differences are, and we can embrace those differences, and we can look at each other for our contributions and not just look at someone and make a biased characterization. Our children read these books, they look at these pictures, and they see themselves represented. If they see themselves represented, they may be more at peace with themselves and hopefully embrace whatever makes them different and from the child that sits next to them in class. I'm excited that my two girls will be part of this school district, and I look forward to the many years that my children will have this exposure and be able to learn. And I thank you, the board and staff, for everything that you have done. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rick, and I'm an elementary school teacher and father of 2 students in San Juan. As a teacher, I'm a public servant. As such, I work for the parents. What they have to say is more important than what I have to say. I identify as a person of faith. That is the core of who I am, more core to my being than my orientation or gender. My students have no idea about this. They have no idea I'm a person of faith because I do not teach them that. I teach my family that at home. We must all respect each other's personal beliefs and belief systems if we're going to live in a civilized society. Tolerance is the order of the day, not acceptance. We must tolerate, by law, conscientious objectors. The framework, unfortunately, is intolerant of traditional views. It's interesting that somebody had just mentioned that one of the tenets was to have no intolerant speech or disrespectful, but I feel not tolerated by this. I appreciate that we live in a free society where the LGBT community can be free to live in any way they choose to, and I would ask for the same respect to be shown to me and my family so that we can live any way that we choose to as well. The First Amendment protects us against the government forcing us to say anything that we disagree with, which means students don't have to learn this. Teachers like me don't have to teach it. And parents should ask their teachers, what are their intentions when this stuff comes up? Districts, you better have an army full of subs ready to teach this when teachers refuse.
Hi, my name is Jenica Williams. I have a kindergartner in San Juan Unified School District. If your 6-year-old or child or grandchild was at a park and I started to educate them about sexuality, would that be okay? Many parents would be irate, as I am, about this being taught to my first grader by the school. I should be the one educating my children about these sensitive topics at a time when I feel appropriate, not the school, and 6 years old is not that age. This is not about hate from our side, but about age and appropriateness. My question to the board is if over 80% of the community who provided feedback to the district, those are your results posted on your website, feel like the content is not age appropriate for grade levels, why is none of our feedback being taken into account? We have over 2,500 signatures in opposition of this curriculum. Why can't it be pushed to middle school? Families shouldn't have to fight or flee from public schools to protect our children from controversial teaching about sexuality, sexual identity. Undermining and attacking families and religious communities, as the framework does, is not the right answer. We hope you'll reconsider your recommendation and take into account our perspective on this matter and reinstate parental rights on these sensitive subjects. Thank you.
The next 4 speakers, Zoe, Robbie. The next name is crossed out on my list, but is showing behind you. So if Lori Valencia is here, her name is Zoe is first. And then Lori Valencia, Sarah Jacobson, and Jeff Edwards.
She's so tall. Hello again. I now speak to you both as a disabled student and so proudly as president of Bella Vista's Gender Sexuality Alliance, and I hope I can do justice to our students, whom I love as a family, with these words. The inclusivity of education, allowing students of any number of minorities and differences to see themselves represented throughout their educational experiences, is incredibly important. Imagine growing up with a passion for learning. Most, if not all of us, start out that way, and losing that drive early on. That passion once held dies down as school and its lessons become the same concepts, never including people like yourself, never teaching or providing you with the tools necessary to become your best self at the end of your educational experience. Right now, we see LGBT+ students ignorant of their own histories, battling peers who do not understand because they have never been exposed to the difference that is frankly all around us, difference that shouldn't be pushed down any longer. If we ever want to build a future in which these children can grow up to be the strongest and most powerful versions of themselves, in which they have the tools and skills necessary to overcome adversity, to inspire their peers, to change the world, we cannot in good conscience leave them blindsided. Students are being treated as if they do not deserve to know these things that are so vital not only to their maturity, but just to their living past age 13. Trust me, I know. Inclusive curriculum does no harm to the community, but starving countless students of information that includes their blood and tears, information they have a right to be taught, results in nothing but ignorance and unhappiness. Please support these changes, support these children, your children, and everything they deserve to have access to in life. Thank you very much.
Good evening, all. My name is Laura Valencia, and I am a dual immersion 6th grade teacher in the district. I've been working for the district for 9 years, and in the past 4 years, I've been working with middle school students. As a Mexican-American English learner, I can speak to you from the perspective of a student who was never seen on the textbooks, hardly ever represented to the potential that I ever thought I could have. And from this point, I want to bring back the point that those years are long gone. Bilingual education is back in the classrooms. And this brings me great reassurance that the same opportunities that have happened in language acquisition could also happen with inclusion and including students of color and LGBTQ. With this said, as a middle school teacher and as one that deeply cares about my students and the relationships that I build with them, I can tell you that going through the adoption program, going through the process for adoption for this curriculum, I had the opportunity to talk and hear from students their personal opinions on what they thought of the curriculum. Never once students were disappointed or even offended at all by anything that was presented in the books. Never once were they confused or they questioned anything. Inclusion is definitely the way to go. The contributions of all communities of color and LGBTQ are great. They're honorable like anyone else's, and for this reason, they deserve to be respected and represented in the curriculum we present our students with. As a teacher, I can also tell you, and I want to reassure to you and to the parents present, that I want to make sure that I can represent all students in my classroom, always.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sarah, and I am the mother of 2 students currently in the district, with the third coming down the pipeline in a few years. I'm also a former middle school social science teacher who plans on re-entering the classroom when my youngest is a bit older. I keep hearing about this idea of delay or too much too soon from those who oppose the new curriculum. I question, what is too much too soon? Is it too much too soon to show our children that their ideas can have an enormous impact on the world in ways that not even they comprehend? Is it too much too soon to teach our children to reach for their dreams even when their dreams are literally out of this world? Is it too much too soon to encourage our children to foster a sense of community and be the voice for those who are not able to speak for themselves? It is not too much too soon. The time is now. The time is now to show all children that they are valuable and can achieve extraordinary things. The time is now to include a myriad of historical figures, including Alan Turing, Sally Ride, and even Harvey Milk, into our students' curriculum. The time is now to show the impact of marginalizing groups and show how it can be prevented in the future. The time is now to reach all students among all walks of life as individuals by providing materials they can relate to on an individual level. The time is now to show each child that they are noticed and have an important role in our diverse classrooms and in society as a whole. The time is now to do better for our children than was done for us. So I urge you to please adopt the new curriculum. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeff Edwards. I'm here on behalf of the Stonewall Foundation of Greater Sacramento, which is the charitable arm of the Stonewall Democratic Club. The purpose of the Stonewall Foundation of Greater Sacramento is first to raise scholarships to support emerging leaders in the LGBT community at Sac State, second, to support gay-straight alliances in Sac Metro, and third, to monitor and facilitate compliance with the FAIR Act in the Sacramento region. It's important for this board to adopt this curriculum. This curriculum represents an important opportunity for LGBT children and for the peers of LGBT children to learn and grow how to support them, how to express love, and how to defeat the ignorance that keeps them back. I strongly urge this board to join Elk Grove, Natomas, and other area school districts in adopting an inclusive curriculum. Thank you.
Our next four speakers, Riker Golden, Ariana Tarrant, Karen Roberts, and Beverly Kearney.
Good evening, President Costa, Superintendent Kern, board members, and Ms. Cunningham. I'm here today to support the adoption of the new curriculum. In our current curriculum, we teach about people like Rosa Parks and Susan B. Anthony, who are some people like women and people of color, but what do we teach mainly about? White, supposedly straight men. Think about some of your most influential people in history. George Washington, James Madison, JFK. Where do you feel about LGBT and African American people being more than just slaves? And disabled people besides Stephen Hawking all making strides to a better future. We need to add all this to our curriculum so people who are different can feel more included and make people know being different is okay. I think this will benefit everyone in the school district because even if you're not LGBT, a person of color, have a disability, or a woman, it will still show that there is different people and we need to embrace these differences. We should embrace their differences because if everyone was the same, then the world would be boring. And we should embrace these differences and have a better world of expression, and they will feel more accepted, including the detail that this is a man or a woman or LGBTQ+ will make them see that, hey, this person is whatever, and they did things great even though they are different. I'm 16 years old and standing in front of you asking for you to adopt this curriculum because it would have helped me personally come out easier as a child growing up knowing what it is. I didn't learn about this from any of my educators. I learned about it through friends and TV and the internet. I would have loved to learn it through educators, people that I spend most of my day with. Thank you.
Good evening, President Costa, Superintendent Kern, board members, and Ms. Cunningham. My name is Ariana Tarrant, and I am a sophomore at the Unschool. I personally identify as bisexual. That means I love both men and women. It took me a long time to figure out this part of my identity. Growing up, I didn't realize that being gay was a thing. It's not like love itself is taboo to teach children. I knew I wanted a boyfriend when I was older, and I saw my parents being in love. My family wasn't homophobic or anything. I even had gay relatives. It just never clicked that they were anything other than roommates. When I finally learned that people can be gay, it was from the internet. You'd think that the people that I spend 6 hours a day with to learn would have at least taught me that gay people exist. It took me even longer to realize that I was one, since I didn't know you could like both. Isn't that weird for a society that values love? Think of all the stories where the knight gets the princess. Why can't the knight be a girl, or the princess be a prince? I'm tired of being told that my very existence is controversial. Imagine being told that your existence is controversial for something that is as much of a choice as skin color. Imagine parents shielding their children's eyes at the sight of someone who is different than them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Roberts. We have a history of marginalizing human beings that aren't part of the majority or don't fit our definition of normal. People of color because they aren't Caucasian, gays because who they love is not of the opposite sex, individuals with disabilities because they sometimes look and participate differently, people who practice a religion other than our own. We are all human beings, no one better or more important than another. We all deserve consideration and respect. The LGBT civil rights movement is historical, and there are stories to be told that will help reduce bullying in schools by teaching about the historical place of LGBT figures in American society. My sophomore daughter isn't thrilled about additions to curriculum because she's already stressed about the amount she has to learn. That's an argument I can understand. Worrying that exposure to LGBT history will negatively impact your child's life is not. This proposed curriculum is not about teaching, is about teaching history, not sexuality. I hope and I support the passage of this new curriculum. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Beverly Kearney, and I am the founder of an organization called Love is Love Movement. I've also been a social worker for about 20 years now, which means I'm really old and I've seen a lot. And I'm feeling a little bit confused tonight because I'm hearing a lot of parents who are opposing the curriculum stand up here and saying that they're upset about being excluded from decisions about a curriculum on inclusion. And I'm not sure if I missed something in that process, but this has been a law since 2012 and it's 2019, so even in 7 years we maybe could have figured that part out. I see children in your school district every single day. I see LGBTQ youth every single day, and so let's talk about the facts. The facts are that LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to commit suicide or have suicide attempts than non-LGBTQ youth. I believe it was a Mr. Gall, who is a teacher, by the way, please bring in subs, who was saying that these beliefs and sexuality should be taught at home. I've seen multiple children from this community out at multiple LGBTQ community events as young as 4 holding signs saying sodomy is a sin. So they're not learning about sodomy in school, so therefore they're learning about it at home. Our children, our LGBTQ youth, our families, parents, we are just like everybody else. We go to work, we pay taxes, we have dreams for our children. No one's child matters more than someone else's. Everybody's child is equal. These parents who now want to jump on the bandwagon because it suddenly became something that's offensive to them, I hear that Texas, Mississippi, and North Carolina have great real estate values right now. I urge you to adopt the inclusion. Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Evan Minton, Tanya Kuchagurney, and Becky Milton. And then the board will again do discussion to see if we are going to extend.
Hi, my name is Evan Minton, and I help raise my nephew Sammy, who is a 4th grader in the district and lives with me. My 2 nieces are in kindergarten and 2nd grade at Oakview. Sammy has autism. My sister and I have seen the process of Sammy orient himself to the world. We see him wonder why he doesn't fit in and feels isolated and misunderstood by his classmates. My sister and I found a character on the TV show Community who also has autism. And we now use that character as a reference point. And we see Sammy able to see himself and understand himself. And we see him flourish because of that. Imagine if Sammy and his classmates had a whole host of people with disabilities to learn about and value. It's also important to state that I'm a transgender American. And this has never been too hard of a concept for Sammy or my nieces to grasp. And in fact, learning about different life experiences enriches their own lives. And they would find it confusing why the people in this room are so fearful of that fact. Finally, I'm the co-chair of the California Democratic Party LGBT caucus. And I worked in the legislature when this bill was passed. And I want to say that in that respect, it is a blessing to see this board on the precipice of taking this historic, inclusive, and fair step forward. I urge you to adopt the recommended materials. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Tanya Kuchuguni, and I'm a mother. My child is in a high school here in San Juan district. And also I'm a grandmother who is gonna have little ones, hopefully. Learning in these schools if we're gonna find a common ground here, because we need to love our children no matter what you guys trying to put labels on. But we can't push our agenda on children. If I'm a mother, I have a right to raise my children, and I'm a Christian. So would you be considering me hateful because my religion says that being a lesbian is a sin? I know. It's very, controversial. We can't talk right now. And everything, I hear you. I understand you, that you have your children, and we put everything together, but I'm against the sexuality pushing on our children. I teach my children to respect everyone. I teach my children to love their neighbors. And as a Christian, for me, it's offensive when people say that, move. You know what? I pray for this country. I pray for this district. I pray for every teacher. And for me, because I'm a Christian, and there's some Muslim here, and Mormons, and there's other religions. So if we believe in our God, and He put standards, and we teach our children, right now it's not politically correct, I'm sorry. I came to this country for religion freedom, and I had this freedom, and I want to teach my children and my grandchildren and all my people who are around me to protect my children. I'm a child care provider, and I know how.
Hello, I am a mother of San Juan Unified School District students. I graduated from this district. I went to college to be an educator. I taught and subbed in San Juan for over 10 years. My mom taught in the district for over 30. Both my sister and my husband are public school social studies teachers. I believe in the public school system. I don't want to send my kids to a charter. I don't want to send my kids to private school, and I don't want to homeschool. I believe in public school system. I am not against the LGBT community, no matter what anybody says in this room, because I know my heart, and I know the friends and the people that I'm friends with that are in that community, and they know my heart, and they know the love that I have for them. But I am against the adoption of this curriculum. It takes away the power of choice from the parents of young children in this district. I'm here to respectfully ask that you do not adopt it in its entirety. It is too much too soon, and I am also an educated person. I know other people said they were educated, and believe me, it's not too much too soon. Because I'm a parent of young kids, I can pick what is too much too soon. I can choose to shield and decide that my kids should get to be a little bit protected in certain areas and just have fun, innocent childhood. Because that's what I want for my family. And if other people don't choose to do that, that's fine, because that's their kids, and they can teach their kids whatever they want at home. The district is going way beyond what the law requires. As elected officials, I ask that each one of you would put education in the district first. Please take into consideration all children, parents, and family. The FAIR Act states that local districts can determine how much content to include and which grade levels to include it at. You guys all, you have a choice. You have the power to focus the FAIR Act more towards the high school level where it is way more age appropriate. And finally, if you don't listen to the parents in this district and you do opt for the curriculum, I would ask simply for a head notification or an opt-out. Work with us. Let's not build a bigger divide. Let's try to find a bridge.
Fellow board members, we're at the 30-minute mark. We have 12 more speakers, and I would like to ask for discussion or a motion. Dr. McKibben?
I move that we hear the last 12 speakers.
It's been moved.
I second that, but I'd like to just add a comment, and I just want to remind our speakers, I seconded the motion, but you don't have to use your whole 2 minutes. Just a friendly reminder.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that was unanimous. Our next 4 speakers are Greg Rice, Cameron McLeod, Alina Menelinko, and Nellie, and I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Nellie. It's T-I-E-K. It's on the screen. Everybody is telling me in my ear.
I didn't come tonight with any prepared statement, but I wanted to thank the board for at least opening the forum and the platform, and I wanted to say that I've taken a lot from it, personally. It's been, I think, of value, and what I have felt is that a majority of the people on both sides have come here with good intentions. Thank you. I really mean it. Good intentions always don't have the outcome that we want. And good intentions on your part may not have the outcome in reality that you want. From what I know, the existing textbook and curriculum that we're using has not been found to be discriminatory. It's not perfect, and it maybe has a lot to improve on. And I feel like we all have a lot to improve on. But what I can say is that, well, I want to clarify that the thousands of people that did sign the petition, and I think the tens of thousands of unaware parents that are going to be that are going to find out about it the people who are against it are not trying to, we just want to postpone to a later age. For my children, I would just prefer to be able to discuss the topics and take it out of the kindergarten and elementary age. If this does go through, it's not going to keep heterosexuals or gay or lesbian couples and married couples to teach them as they wish or to bring up these topics. But what it will do from a top-down vote controlling the curriculum, it's going to dictate that I can't.
Superintendent Kern, President Costa, board members, and Mrs. Cunningham. My name is Cameron McLeod. I'm a retired teacher from the San Juan School District, 6th grade. I served on quite a few textbook adoption committees in the area of social studies, and I remember when including Buddhism and Hinduism in our study of ancient India was controversial. And I hope we keep moving forward. I am a proud graduate of San Juan Schools, And as I watched the Del Campo Honor Guard open the meeting, I thought of my dear late oldest brother, John McLeod, a proud graduate of the class of 1967 here on this campus. Oh, he would have loved, as a member of El Camino Madrigals, this Performing Arts Center. He's in heaven, literally. My brother John was a member of NROTC here at El Camino, which led to a scholarship he earned to UC Berkeley. Upon graduation from Cal, my dear brother began his service to our country in the Navy. He served honorably as a junior officer in command of a minesweeper until one fateful day when he was pulled into the bridge and interrogated for 8 hours for being a suspected homosexual. He was given until the next morning to either resign his commission or be court-martialed. My brother left his beloved Navy to the distinct detriment of our country. My brother knew from his early teens that he was gay, but he never heard about anyone like him. How much happier, safer, and more hopeful his school experience would have been had that been.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Olina Manilenko. As English is my third language, sorry about my accent. I graduate American River College. Now I am Sac State student with child development major and mother of 3 children. I care about children in San Juan District because I volunteer a lot at San Juan District to fill my lab hours. I am familiar with sex education framework, research a lot, talk with professors, and find hidden sexual education practice by diversity topics. It makes me sad, terrible sad, that an inappropriate curriculum for children under age of 12 could be adopted in San Juan District. Each child is individual. And adopting sex education as part of new curriculum will damage many individual personality of these children. This is part of milestones. This work is for Child Protective Service to inform child if any abuse happened individually and provide therapy. Adopting new curriculum, including diverse communities, is good things. However, it's discrimination on the other side to Christians, Muslims, Jews, and other representatives of religion belief group of people. In this point, also, it should include Christian and religious curriculum too, to make equality in new curriculum. As a future teacher, I am not allowed to talk about God.
Your time is up. Your time is up. No, thank you very much. Your time is up. Ma'am, your time is up. Your time is up.
Good evening, Superintendent Kern, President Costa, Secretary Cunningham, and board members. Thank you for having me today. I am here as a concerned parent. I feel that the new curriculum is not appropriate for young minds. I have been with the San Juan School District as a student since 1996 and later went on to become a registered nurse, and I have been so for 12 years. My kids have been with San Juan since 2010. I'm not here to hate on the group that is wanting this passed, but as a concerned mom. Things like gender fluidity is not science-based. Your chromosomes, they don't lie. Gender should be taught by the parents, and the school system would be overstepping its boundaries by teaching this sensitive topic to our children. Saying that society is not inclusive of gays, lesbians, or transgender is not true. My kids go to a school with kids who identify with the LGBT community, and I do not see those kids excluded in any way, or that I don't see them bullied, and I'm around the school quite a bit. I work with people from the LGBT community, and they are not in any way excluded from excelling in their world. I feel that people feel I feel that if people are feeling that their kids are excluded from the textbooks, they are definitely welcome to furnish books of their own to show families like theirs. And you see the community, the LGBT community, all over in the news and everywhere in Hollywood. They are very much represented. I teach my kids to love all people, no matter what their beliefs. Thank you.
Our next four speakers are Wendy Stanek, Natalie Antolin, Oksana Grinovich, and Tanya Chauncey.
Hello, my name is Wendy Stanek, and I'm here as a parent not just of a sophomore here at El Camino, but also as a homeschool parent of a 5th grade boy. My daughter, when she chose to come to El Camino, was told the motto of El Camino is that there's a place for everyone here, not just the athletes, not just the really smart kids, but a place for everyone. And when she told me that, I thought, that's something that I really want to buy into, because the world is not just made up of white men who are straight. The world is made up of a beautiful rainbow of people. As a homeschool parent, and a parent here in the San Juan District, I strongly encourage you to accept and adopt this curriculum. When I'm trying to find curriculum for my son as a homeschool parent, this district is the first place I look to see what are the recognized curriculums so that I can find help in addressing all the state standards. I want my children both to have a great opportunity to be educated. When I try to look at the old curriculums to address state standards on my own and to be inclusive by myself, it's much, much harder. My son, on his own, chose to do a report on Harvey Milk in the 3rd grade. How could I tell him about the hero, the American hero that is Harvey Milk, without telling him that Harvey Milk is gay? The gay community is really important and vibrant part of our culture, of our history. Lesbian, gay, transgender, bi, the entire rainbow, men and women of color, and they're an important part of our history and of our future. And I think that every child, no matter what their family's ideas are about how important they are in our past, deserves to know about their past and future. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Natalie Antolin. I have a bachelor's degree in feminist studies from UC Santa Cruz. I am currently employed as a teaching assistant in an elementary school classroom in Sacramento County and at Weave as an advocate for survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence. During my peer counselor training for Weave, I learned that half of bisexual people experience sexual violence, 1.5 out of 2 transgender people experience sexual violence, and 36% of those survivors experience it 5 or more times in their life. 40% of the runaway population are LGBT youth. 59% of LGBT homeless youth are sexually exploited. 1/3 are recruited by a trafficker within 48 hours of running away. This violence is possible due to anti-LGBT discrimination and attitudes in this society and in this room. In order to protect children from sexual trauma, you must do everything in your power to completely eradicate homophobia and transphobia in school. On multiple occasions as an elementary school TA, I've heard children call others gay as an insult or assert, "I'm not gay." I've heard children say that being gay is weird and bad. This is not an environment in which an LGBT child is safe. LGBT children hearing these comments are learning that they are gross and wrong, and that if they come out, they will not have any friends. If you want to keep children safe from sexual violence and bullying, you need to create a culture in all of your school campuses in which any negative comment against LGBT people is not tolerated. You must ensure that LGBT students feel safe, included, accepted, and celebrated. That is not possible without LGBT inclusive education. That is not possible when bigoted parents are given a platform to speak against LGBT inclusion and acceptance as if our
Hello, my name is Oksana Grinevich, and in my life, I never insulted transgender person. I'm not ashamed to say that I'm Christian, but in my life, I was insulted by transgenders in public for my Christian religion twice in front of whole class when I was college student. I researched the framework, I read it because I want to know, not just to hear. I read instructions for teachers and questions for students. And I can say that this curriculum is not just about history. It's about LGBTQ agenda. In addition, this curriculum doesn't value all students equally. This particular curriculum wants to teach little kids at age of 5, 6, 7 years facts that it might be something wrong with them if they are sure about their gender. Why my kids should be pushed to change their sex identity, identity. Why they valued by framework as disabled if they identify themselves with only one gender. Why they can be hurt so easily. If we are citizens of free country, my kids and me personally should not be pushed to accept different style of life. I'm asking you please to reject this curriculum.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Taushanji, and I'm a mother of 3 kids. And my parents brought me here from Soviet Union because they were persecuted for their beliefs. We came here because of the First Amendment that guarantees freedom concerning our religion. The new LGBT curriculum goes against our religion. In the new curriculum, it proposes for a 5-year-old to choose their own gender. If you confused a kid at a young age, that's how they will grow up confused. I do not want to send my 4-year-old little girl to school and someone will confuse her and ask her, maybe you are not a girl, maybe you're something else, because they're saying that there's like more than 100 different genders now. It's funny, I know. It's crazy that I'm even saying that. There's only 2 genders, a boy and a girl, and that's what we believe, and that's what we want our kids to believe. We teach our kids also abstinence before marriage. The new curriculum will teach them about pleasures of sex at an appropriate age. It doesn't teach them about bad relationships. It doesn't teach them about the infections that they get. If the new curriculum goes through, the Christian community will be pulling their kids out of school. That's it.
Our last, our last four speakers are Mariah Biden, Ray Vanderwoof, Tim, I can't see the name, Karen Meyer, and Aaliyah Marshak.
Hello, my name is Maria Bidun, and I am a mother of 3 elementary school students. Me and my group of parents are against the new textbook adoption in the history of social studies. I came with a group of friends and family. Can you please get up? And we have a lot more. We have a lot of Ukrainian and Russian community coming today to speak against the new textbook adoption. Children in elementary schools and all other grade levels need to emphasize on educating mathematics and reading and writing and leave the gender-related topics for parents to explain to them. We strongly believe that all gender-related topics and sex education classes need to get approval from parents before being taught to our children, especially targeting fragile age children as early as 5 years old. This is violating our parental rights. As a mother of 3 children in school, I volunteer in their school a lot. I spoke to a lot of parents in the last couple of weeks, and none of them were aware of this new curriculum. And none of the teachers that I spoke to had any idea what I was asking about. Even the secretaries in our office, they had no idea what I was asking about when I asked about this new textbook. We need to be aware of the new curriculum that's been implemented, and why aren't parents notified what is being taught to their elementary school children. I urge you to say no to this adoption. Give us parents an opportunity to teach our children sex education and gender topics. Too much, too soon. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Ann Ray Vanderwerf, and I am actually a flood control trustee representative who represents parts of your area. And I am queer, and I want all the students in the room who are queer to know they are seen. You are not alone. We all love you, so please know that. I know it's not easy to come up here and speak about yourself when you feel that others do not see you in the same way. I also have a learning disability. And I want to share a little story my sister told me in 4th grade. She came home and hugged me. My sister never hugs me, and I love hugs, and so this was a weird feeling. And my sister said that in their class, they actually had a conversation about learning disabilities. This was the first time she knew I've had learning disabilities since she was a little kid, that she actually felt she understood it. And so this isn't just about LGBTQ, it's not just about learning disabilities, it's about being able to hear and see people you might love and getting to understand what they're going through. I think it's so important that we know that and that we think about this. I've read some of the things, especially for the younger students. That was something I was really interested in. I have lots of friends with kids in the school district. They're talking about Harvey Milk being gay. That's not about sexuality in any way other than saying who he is. That's like saying, I'm the youngest ever elected queer person. That's an important fact to know, but it's not something that changes who I am or is going to affect your kids in any way. So I just really hope that you guys support this, and if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with me.
Trustees, my name is Tim Kamer, and I'm the president of the Stonewall Democratic Club of Greater Sacramento. With over 350 members across Sacramento, including in this area, we stand strongly in support of the inclusive LGBT textbooks. And to the trustees that have worked with our club, I want to say a special thank you. I appreciate that. I will be brief, as many have already said what I could say, and they've said it a lot more eloquent and better than I. And with that, I really only want to have one thing to note before the trustees here. Listening to these young students talk about how they want these inclusive textbooks, how they want to be able to live in a community where all voices are heard, I can't help but think about what it would have been like to have these textbooks when I was a kid. I can't help but think it would have been like if we had had these textbooks when my members were children. How much lives would have been saved? How much bullying could have been prevented? Members, there is discussion about being able to shelve this, but you have an opportunity to ensure that lives are portrayed, that when these students, when they have, say, two mothers, come up here and they're feeling like they don't exist, they can go to this textbook and it's a resource for them to say, no, you not only do exist, your culture, your community is valid. In closing, I really don't have a lot more that I want to say, except that, as it seems to matter, I'm a Christian too. And I have a lot of LGBTQ friends who are Christian as well. And there are a lot of Christians who do not believe that homosexuality is a sin. There are those who do, but it is not all of the Christian faith. And I bring this up just to say that this is not just our religious beliefs issue. Religion is personal in a way that sexual orientation is not. And I would encourage you to stand up for these children and stand up for the opportunity that when these kids open the textbook, they can see that they were a part of what made America so great.
My name is Ala, and I would like to thank you for listening to all of our opinions. I'm here to reject the new sexual orientation framework because it doesn't open up opportunity for everyone to be equal. It takes away purity of our children and it leads our children into confusion and it takes away focus from education and it does not support everyone's equality. I want to say our children are pure, and whatever we put in their hearts is not supposed to be sexually oriented. The textbooks that going to include this information, it's going to have sexual explicit materials that are corrupt for young minds, and it should be not taught for young children. It's something that should be taught on a family matter. Everyone has an opinion to teach those children when sexual explicit material is appropriate. And we want, as parents, to have a right in making choices what our children are allowed to see in the classrooms. Please remember that parents do have the right of what their children are allowed to see in the classroom. And that sexual explicit material is not appropriate for young age. And please allow it takes away freedom of constitution. If you're going to take away parents' rights, whether to send them into the classroom and looking at that material, it's not appropriate. Sexual orientation should be taught, if you wanted to, behind the closed doors at your home. I appreciate if you can remember that. We don't want our children, pure minds, to look at sexual explicit material. Please. It's not appropriate. And give parents rights, please.
And that concludes visitor comment. It is now time for questions and comments from the board. Do any board members have questions or comments?